It might be art, but it's not hanging on my wall." That was the reaction of one motoring journalist who drove the Citroën SM in 1970 and could not decide whether he was reviewing a car or a piece of industrial sculpture. If that sounds like a modern luxury vehicle from 2024, every one of those features was standard equipment on a French Grand Tourer that went out of production 50 years ago. But the Citroën SM was not simply ahead of its time, it was ahead of several times simultaneously. These are the 6 features that make it the most over-engineered production car in history. The Maserati V6 engine. The heart of the SM was not a Citroën engine at all, it was a Maserati. When Citroën acquired Maserati in 1968, they handed the job of building the new engine to Maserati's chief engineer Giulio Alfieri, with one specific constraint. The engine had to be compact enough to fit transversely in a front-wheel drive car, a packaging challenge that had defeated most manufacturers who had attempted it with anything more powerful than a modest 4-cylinder. Alfieri delivered a 90-degree V6 built entirely from aluminum, 31 centimeters long, and weighing just 140 kilograms. Smaller and lighter than engines found in contemporary hatchbacks, yet still producing 170 horsepower and a top speed of 140 miles per hour. The displacement started at 2.7 liters, a deliberate choice driven by France's horsepower tax, which would have priced a larger engine out of the domestic market. For export markets where no such tax applied, Citroën offered a 3.0-liter version. The most distinctive internal feature was a single shaft running the entire length of the block, called a jack shaft, which powered the alternator, water pump, and the high-pressure hydraulic pump that fed the car's suspension, steering, and braking simultaneously from a single source. One shaft, one pump, 3 complete vehicle systems drawing power from it. But that jackshaft was driven by timing chains at the rear of the engine. If those chains were not maintained religiously, they would stretch and fail. The SM became notorious for exactly this, and for decades the reputation stuck. An engine that was a masterpiece of compact packaging with a reliability vulnerability built into the most inaccessible part of it. Citroën had solved 5 problems simultaneously and introduced one new one in the most inconvenient possible location. Hydropneumatic suspension. The suspension on the SM was not something Citroën invented for this car. It was something they had been refining since the DS in 1955 and had reached a new level of sophistication by the time the SM arrived. Where other cars used conventional metal springs and dampers, the SM used pressurized spheres filled with hydraulic fluid and nitrogen gas. Each sphere acted simultaneously as a spring, a damper, and a self-correcting height regulator. Hit a pothole in a normal car and the impact travels through the wheel, up the spring, and into the body. In the SM, the sphere absorbed the energy before it could reach the body, adjusting in real time to whatever the road presented. Load the boot with luggage and pack 4 passengers in, and the car automatically raised itself back to the correct ride height. Remove all the weight and it settled back down. No driver input required. The system also gave the driver a cabin lever to manually raise or lower the car for different road conditions, and if a tire failed completely, the car could be driven on 3 wheels without losing control. If you needed to change that tire, you could raise the relevant corner without ever locating a jack. Citroën built an active suspension system in 1970 that anticipated everything the automotive industry would spend the next 4 decades developing independently. The technology was not incremental, it was complete. The SM had solved the ride quality problem so comprehensively that it left the rest of the industry with nothing to improve on except the components it was built from. Hydraulic braking system. The braking system on the SM ran on the same central hydraulic circuit that powered the suspension and steering. One pressurized system feeding 3 completely different vehicle functions simultaneously, which sounds like an engineering risk until you understand what that arrangement actually delivered. Most cars of the era mounted their front brakes directly on the wheel hub. Citroën moved the front brakes inboard onto the chassis itself. This removed the brake assembly from the unsprung mass of the wheel and suspension, which meant the wheel was significantly lighter and the suspension could react faster to road inputs. The tires stayed in contact with the road with a consistency that outboard brakes could not match. The system also adjusted its own brake bias automatically depending on load. Driving alone, it distributed hydraulic pressure one way. Fully loaded with 4 passengers and luggage, it recalculated and shifted the pressure distribution accordingly. The driver made no adjustment and was not asked to. The entire system ran at 2,500 pounds per square inch of hydraulic pressure. A single light touch of the brake pedal deployed full stopping power with almost no pedal travel. The response was so immediate and so sensitive that drivers unfamiliar with the car frequently overbraked on their first experience of it. Citroën did not build a braking system. It built a weapon that required its operators to be retrained. The headlights. The SM came with 6 halogen headlights sitting behind a single heated glass cover that ran the full width of the nose. The outer 4 lights were fixed. The inner 2 did something no production car had done before. They swiveled with the steering wheel. Turn the wheel to take a corner, and those inner lights physically rotated to illuminate the road you were actually heading toward before you had completed the turn. Every other car built in 1970 pointed its lights straight ahead while you turned into darkness and hoped. The SM pointed its lights at the corner while you were still entering it. Citroën also heated the glass cover to prevent fogging in cold and wet conditions. This sounds unremarkable until you realize that no other manufacturer had thought to do it. The entire assembly sat flush with the bodywork with a precision that made it look less like a functional component and more like something placed there deliberately by a designer who had simply refused to accept that headlights were permitted to be ugly. Swiveling headlights on production cars would not become common until the early 2000s, when several European manufacturers reintroduced the concept as a premium feature. Citroën had fitted it as standard equipment 30 years earlier. The details nobody told you about. By this point, you might reasonably think Citroën had already over-engineered every possible component of this car. They had not finished. The factory wheels looked like conventional alloys, but were actually fiberglass reinforced plastic, developed by Michelin specifically for the SM's rally program. Visually identical to a standard wheel, they weighed half as much. Lighter wheels meant faster suspension response and more precise direction changes at speed. The improvement was invisible to anyone looking at the car, but significant to anyone driving it quickly. The SM also had rain-sensing wipers in 1970. Sensors detected moisture on the windscreen and activated the wipers automatically. This feature would not become common on mainstream cars until the late 1990s, 3 decades after Citroën had already fitted it as standard equipment on a vehicle that went out of production in 1975. But the most revealing detail came during development. One test mule was fitted with a 260 horsepower V8 with minimal structural modifications, and the platform handled nearly twice the original power without requiring significant changes to the chassis or suspension. The SM had been engineered with so much structural margin that it was already a different category of car with a different engine dropped in. Maserati agreed. They built the Quattroporte 2 directly on the SM's platform. If there is a higher compliment one engineering organization can pay to another's work, it has not been widely documented. Downfall and legacy. The Citroën SM did not die because something better replaced it. In 1973, the oil crisis collapsed the market for cars like this almost overnight. Citroën's finances were already failing, and by 1974, the company had gone bankrupt. Peugeot acquired what remained and discontinued anything too complex or too expensive to justify. The SM was both. America had already walked away when new crash regulations would have required a complete redesign nobody had the resources to undertake. Europe followed in 1975. Only 12,920 examples were ever built. The technology survived even when the car did not. The hydropneumatic suspension lived on in the Citroën CX. The hydraulic principles filtered across the industry. Engineers who worked on the SM carried those lessons into everything they touched afterwards. But the SM itself was never outpaced and never replaced by something better. It was simply stopped by bankruptcy and bad timing. The SM was not killed because it failed. It was killed because the world ran out of time for it. Fully hydraulic steering with no mechanical fallback. Headlights that looked around corners before you had finished turning into them. Rain-sensing wipers 3 decades before the rest of the industry caught up. All of it in 1970. All of it standard equipment. 50 years later, engineers are still studying the SM, not because it represents where automotive technology was going, because it represents where it had already arrived. If this video gave you something to think about, subscribe. There are many more on the way.